gości na Zamku Poznańskim, nie mylić z Zamkiem Królewskim. Oczywiście w siedzibie Muzeum Użytkowych, która jest chyba nadal jeszcze słabo rozpoznana w naszym szerszym środowisku mieszkańców, bo ktoś, kto tu chodzi, to mówi, że nie spodziewał się, że to jest takiego klasyczne muzeum. W sposób szczególny chcę powitać naszych tutaj dwóch międzynarodowych gości, pan Gaël de Guichen, specjalista, jak sobie poradzić z magazynami, jak sobie poradzić z magazynami, kiedy brakuje pieniędzy na inwestycje. Witamy serdecznie. Natomiast w Portugalii przybyła do nas pani która tutaj towarzyszy. O, tutaj serdecznie witamy. Kiedy pani Anna przyszła z taką propozycją, błogosławieństwem pani dyrektor, pani Anna napierała błogosławieństwem pani dyrektor Maligową, że jest taka idea, ponieważ uczestniczyła w warsztacie podobnym, że warto by to zrobić w Polsce i no to oczywiście bardzo się cieszyłem, bo to są świetne inspiracje, świetne pomysły, tym bardziej, że rzeczywiście można zaprosić do nas ludzi, którzy reprezentują najwyższą absolutnie klasę światową. To nie jest regionalna, to nie jest europejska, to światowa w tym zakresie. Także cieszę się nie tylko do obowiązku, ale też satysfakcji, że Ministerstwo Kultury dofinansowało ten projekt, żeby on się odbywał w taki sposób georektywny i to oczywiście na potrzebne pieniądze i to tak jest wyprzedzenie. No też jest powiedzieć naszym organizatorom, że to możliwe. Ale od razu bardzo nam zależało, żeby było silnie reprezentowane nasze wielooddziałowe muzeum, z czego się bardzo cieszę, bo widzę tutaj wielu współpracowników, ale także, żeby korzystały inne muzea. Ja to jest taką małe sprawdzenie obecności. Prawdopodobnie są przedstawiciele Muzeum Architekturalnego. Tak, to proszę się pokazać, a my nagrodzimy oklaskami. Chyba ktoś z zespołu biblioteki na siebie. No i teraz już nie chciałbym nikogo stygmatyzować, ale czy jeszcze są inne instytucje? A, była woda przemiany, oczywiście, tak, ale na to i Muzeum Ekologiczne jest także jeszcze miejsce, a niebawem jeszcze kogoś pomina. A Muzeum bardzo witamy. No, to całkiem spora reprezentacja. No i oczywiście jeszcze raz podkreślam, witam Państwa z rozlicznych galerii oddziałów Muzeum Narodowego w Poznaniu, bo poza muzeum, być może Muzeum Użytkowych, to wszędzie mamy po prostu problemy z magazynami, także nie da się tego ukryć. Także jeżeli komuś się wydawało, że Muzeum Narodowe ma poukładane, to właśnie nie, chcemy też układać. Także jeszcze raz Pani Anno dziękuję za inicjatywę. Bardzo serdecznie tutaj wszystkich witam. Cieszę się z tak świetnej frekwencji. Mam nadzieję, że to prowadzenie będzie wielką inspiracją do przyszłych warsztatów. Pani Anno, bardzo proszę.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to speak in English and our guests will understand us. Do you understand me?
My Polish is
That's why
I speak Italian.
that's why I'm quite advanced, so please at the beginning I give the paper, but later I will give I will leave the time for Gaël, but first of all, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. I'd like to welcome our directors, Mr. Tomasz Łęcki, Mrs. Maria Gołąb, and our guests from other institutions. And of course, I welcome especially our honored guests, Gaël de Guichen and from Portugal. Yes, so Gaël de Guichen is an international recognized conservation professional who contributed in developing the concept of preventive conservation in museums. of the authors of RE-ORG program for the organization of museum storage areas. Now he's Chancellor of ICCROM President. Today there is also with us Mrs. Aida Nunes from Portugal. She's a paper conservator. She works in Lisbon Museum. She took part in RE-ORG as mentor. She helped implemented RE-ORG in, for instance, India or Lisbon, Portugal. Now in Poland, she is going to help us. And so from this place, I would like to say special thanks, of course, for our directors, yes, that they let us to invite the special guest. Yes, I would like to thank the Ministry of Culture, yes, who gave us the money for this program. Thanks to them, we are here, we could gather here. And of course, thank you once again, Gaël and Aida, that you took our invitation and that you still here with us. And one more thing at the end, my husband, some of you may know, told me when I was trying to write these sentences that it's a good to quote someone, yes, in the speech, and that's what we are talking about. So, following his advice, I'm going to quote Shakespeare. And I'm going to say RE-ORG or not RE-ORG. So, guys, please, start and let's
I realize that you have said something that everyone in this audience, of course, knows that I'm a dangerous person, because no one and you take, some of you have been saying, as the part-hand. The note here is a little ancient modern, so perhaps at the end, if you don't hear me, please just raise a hand and I will try to speak louder. Okay, don't hesitate to raise a hand. I will speak in English. I am asking you two questions. Do you understand English?
Yes.
And do you understand my English? Obviously, you understand my English. So we try. Okay, I'm really pleased to be there, and thank the director, all the colleagues who are present. It's the first time that I'm giving a lecture in Poland, so I'm very happy. I hope you will be happy too. So the talk is for museum storage, a long journey, and I will start in 1945. In 1935, there has been a conference in Madrid. You can see here. There has been a conference in Madrid at the time of the Société des Nations, the first conference on museums. There were some top guns, you see, people you probably know by writing. You have read their books, but here they are the face of people. Here they are. And my former director was there, and they published the conference. In fact, it was in French at the time. And there was one chapter on deposit. And you will then translate you in English, they say, how would be appropriate room, but unfortunately not often appropriate. In fact, when we speak of storages, we think of room, place, and I know that in this museum they have a beautiful storage bay. In a museum, the storage should be the room where the objects in the collection, which are not only 25,000 before being studied or edited. But it's not always the case. In English, for storage, deposit, storage room, in French, reserve, depot magazine. They are various words. You are lucky in Poland, you have only one. 34, despite what was said, nothing has been done on storage until 1968, when UNESCO published a book, Conservation of Cultural Property, first book worldwide, and in this book, for the first time, there was something on storage. Well, it was just a very tiny chapter, 3 pages. 3 pages for 90% of the collection. 8 years later in Washington, Paul Perrault, who was the keeper at the Smithsonian Institution, organized the first international storage conference on storage. 1976, November. Here are 40 people. I'm sorry to say, you probably don't recognize me. You see, age and bad preventive conservation. Sorry. So I attended this conference, and at this conference, there was some resolution. It was said, the quality of storage is not linked to developed or developing countries, because there are developed museums in developing countries, and there are underdeveloped museums in developing countries. I don't point out any museum in Europe, but they are underdeveloped museums. And they are, in the same museum, they are developed departments and under-departments. It's not a question of money, it's a question of people, professionality. If you abandon the storage, it is a question of professionality, and you become under them. Important, the conclusion, 3 conclusions. Recommendation to ICCROM, prepare a publication which is a synthesis of the matter. 76. Create an international committee on research storage. 1976. Possible, publish a technical handbook on basic storage principles. In 1976, after Christ. 3 years later, 79, UNESCO made the first publication of conserved collection storage, which is this leaflet, not a book, was done by an architect. Good architects have something to do in storage. But they are not the only one. They think only on space. Storage conservation is not only a question of space. You see beautiful drawings, but there are other aspects that they have not taken into consideration. Do you put the storage on the top roof or on the bottom? It's a question, important question. So, on the architect, and in the introduction, it was said, I read it, because also I don't only speak English, I understand English, I know how to read English. The preparation of a handbook of the museum storage is a long overdue. This storage has received inadequate attention in the past, and in most cases are still receiving inadequate attention. And they have probably more harm has been done to museum collection through improper storage than by any other means. Beautiful, 10% of the collection here. Everyone who can see if there is any problem, immediately we can notice. If there is a problem in the storage, nobody, or very few. So, and there, it is apparent that there are major differences between the needs and resources of museums in more technologically advanced countries and those in developing countries. Sorry, I have been through my job at ICCROM for the last 52 years. I have been visiting storage in every continent, and I can tell you that this is wrong. The problem is not developing or undeveloped. It's a problem of developed department or undeveloped department, problem of professional or non-professional. 4 years later, we are now in 1983. ICCROM finally made a proposition to create an international committee for storage. Postponed. Fact. We have to wait 26 years later. Nothing is for storage. 2009, ICCROM and UNESCO, with the help of a professional from UNESCO, and I have to pay tribute to her, Gaël de Guichen, who was in charge of the museum site, which has been cancelled at UNESCO. Incidentally, there at UNESCO there is no more department in storage. She launched the project Collection Ledger, Documentation and Storage. And she gave to ICCROM and to make an anonymous inquiry on the state of museum worldwide. Why anonymous? Because people are afraid to say that it could be better, and that sometimes it is dramatic. I will show you some photos later. So we made this anonymous inquiry on the state of the result was very worrying. You see, the information came from all over the world. And when we extract, there were 1,490 answers, and the results show that 2 museums of 3 were lack of space. Think of your own museum. With your own storage. 1 museum of 2, lack of storage units, overcrowded storage units. 2 out of 5, 60%, lack of management support for the storage. We sometimes prefer to have a good exhibition. It is important to do an exhibition, but to do an exhibition with your collection, and if your collection is not well supported, well clean and so on, it's a lot of work. Lack of management support, lack of trained staff. You went to university. Have you had a course on storage? It's a profession, no? Lack of backlog of which are in accession. I go far. No object movement register, no accession register, no location code. Object directly on the floor. 1 user out of 5. 1 user out of 10, object set. As normal. If there is this order, it's easy to steal any object. So, the collection are at risk. It's not a question of continent. The same result was obtained in Africa, in Asia Pacific, North America, and Europe. The same result. So, at this point, we agree that it was at risk, and I repeat, 1 object out of 3 under responsibility, 1 museum, 2 out of 3, the building is not underground, flood and so on, humidity, so on. 1 out of 4, the documentation is incomplete or inexistent. And 1 out of 2, furniture is overcrowded. Of course, this is not the case for all. But But in other countries like this, in Italy and France it's like this. So 60% of the storage creates situation. So if we resume 50,000 museums in the world, now they say that there are more, which means 50,000 not storage rooms, because each museum has 5, 10. We went to the Army Museum yesterday, and how many days did we calculate? I think it's 10 or 11. We don't even know. No, but it's fact. It is fact. 10 or 11 rooms which have collections, which are not exhibited. Thank you. Thank you very much for honesty. No, thank you very much to the people. Sometimes they don't want to say. They are afraid to say what is the situation. That sometimes they have inherited from the previous curator. So, 50,000 rooms, which means 2,000 storage rooms, 40% in professional way, and 300,000 storage rooms in a programming way. I have to say that yesterday, out of the 11 rooms, we can say that 5 are in professional way. Yes, you can say all the methods and so on. Then 6 has to be improved, and it's why we organize the RE-ORG in museum. In the same museum, the situation is not always the same everywhere. So we know now 10% of the collection is on display, generally 90% in storage. 10% in the gallery, 90% in storage. Billions of objects that nobody will see. So, once again, imagine, and probably those who have been at university have made visits of storages, are beautiful ones. I heard that in this museum, the situation is beautiful. I'm extremely happy and compliment the staff. Compliment also the administrators who have put the money in order to have a good storage, because they have the responsibility. If you don't have money at home, if you have no cupboards, all your clothes will be on the ground. Simple. So sometimes you are beautiful. This way, complete. You find an object, you see the object, you find immediately an object. But the situation is not always like this. And now I ask you to I can show you. Oh, I have in this computer, please don't steal it. I have about more than 2,000 objects storage at this time. And it's from all continents. It's not only in what immediately I think was in Africa, what I've seen in Africa. So, we launched in 2009 this inquiry which has shown the reality. And so in 2011, the general there was ICCROM, perhaps we explain to you later on the difference between ICCROM and ICCROM. You see, ICCROM is an assembly of member states. There are 137 member states. Poland was one of the first ones because in the time the representative of Poland was Professor Stanisław Lawrence, that I have known, and he was very active in the creation of ICCROM. So ICCROM made the first resolution pointing out officially storage. Now in Milan, It was asked to ICCROM at the 24th General Assembly, perhaps some of you attend in assembly. Then there was a proposition of a resolution. It was not presented to the General Assembly. Not presented. It was cancelled. Not presented. It presented to the General Assembly and refused. Not even presented. So it's not a problem. 3 years later, in Kyoto, where I was, we prepared better this resolution. We present the resolution, and this resolution at the General Assembly, 4,000 people from all over the world. The resolution was proposed. There was 5 resolutions. One of them was the third resolution. It was accepted by 338 votes. People did not vote, 113. People abstained. 68 people refused, which means that it has been accepted by only 60% of the people. 60 people who say, we, museums in the world, feel that stories are important. That's fact. Fresh. So, 3 years later, we were in 2019, 3 years later, in 2022, fresh. ICCROM decided to create a working group on storage. We are 7 people. I am a member. And imagine, very important moment for me, that the first meeting of this storage, which was requested 46 years ago, the first meeting will take place tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, we will have the first meeting of course online. So for the first time, people from all over will be thinking, wait, what can we do? Okay. But I don't wear any more slides. Okay, now RE-ORG, the second part. So that's the situation. Now we go to the second part. What is RE-ORG? RE-ORG is a tool for museum professionals to improve their storage if they have problems. So we look at 4 sectors. One, the building, the management. The management, I know that here, and thank you very much, Mr. Director, and your colleagues who are here present. I thank you very much for being there because it shows your interest. The management, you remember I told you, 1 director out of 3 is not interested in storage. So how can you improve it? So this is a key problem. Then we look at the building. If it's not sound, if there are leakage, of course, the collection will be at risk. Then we look only now at the collection. And then we look at the furniture. All people say, the problem is we lack of furniture, but the lack of furniture, perhaps you have not been asking the collection to the management. Right? Have you made a plan? I don't know. That's what we will be doing. Make a plan to improve, perhaps not this week, perhaps in 1 year's time, but we have a plan. We know that it's a problem. We have started to establish importance. And this, we have put a method, which is the RE-ORG. This method is on the site of ICCROM. RE-ORG info. It's 170, a book of 170 pages. And it's in English, French, Italian, Spanish, Arabic, and Catalan. Perhaps after this RE-ORG, it will be translated into Polish and can be used by other people, other museums in your country. So, this is it. And we have put it to practice. and improved in the last 10 years the method. So here are some of the countries where RE-ORG was applied, and the method can be applied in all types of collections, except two. Or I refuse to do it in two types of collections. One, extremely previous coins and so on, because you never know, it can be lost easily, can be stolen. So, coins or jewelry and so on, no. Even so, it has been applied, for instance, just 1 month ago at the Pitti Palace in Florence on the treasure of the Duke of Tuscany. So it is applicable, but I don't want to contribute for security purposes. And I don't want to do it on collection of natural history for safety for people, because you know natural history has been treated with DDT and so on, and you really need to be extremely careful in applying. Otherwise, any kind of collection, and I said that when you apply, I said no resistance, I can do it on everything, even out of the house. So some of the countries where RE-ORG was used, contemporary art in Argentina, various in Canada, ethnographical collection in Belgium, in the National Museum in Belgium, Serbia-Bosnia Science Museum, Greece, Archeo and Ethno in Athens, Archeo in Iraq, China, various collections are in China, it's where we met. And you see, they have survived. That's where we met for the first time, and because China invited 10 foreign museums, hoping that it will be diffused in their own country. India, ethno, New Caledonia, ethno, Algeria, Archeo, Nigeria, and so on and so far, Madagascar and other, Spain, Portugal, I've forgotten Portugal, where they had various collections. So, here we are, you see it is applicable and has been done in more than 30 countries, organizing the same time of course that we will offer in art in Poland. The course in Poland will take place in September, 15 days. And every time we do it in 15 days. Every time. So now, as a good number of you are conservators, and you know that's our craft. No, I'm not a conservator. I'm a chemical engineer, I'm sorry. But for a conservator, to show the result of their work is exceptional. So you love to have this before and after. So I will show you before and after 15 days of work. So, before Iraq, after, it's more pleasant to work. More pleasant. Cost 0. 2 days work, 20 people. India, ethnographic museum. We are in the dark. The alley are free. The objects are out of the shell. So, after. Now you can find your object. You can do documentation. You can do your inventory. You can do the inventory. And I insist. Just a detail. In France, the government has asked all museums to do an inventory. In 2010, they give museums 5 years. They give 10 years to do their inventory. 10 years later, 40% of the time museums have done their inventory. If you are in this situation, how can you do it? Well, here we are in Argentina, corridor being like this, after it's like this, more pleasant. Algeria, the alternative route after, just find the object. Same thing. After. No object on the ground. We have criteria, 10 criteria for quality. The first one is that we have only the collection. So all what is non-collection, out. Second one, no object on the floor. Third one, find an object in less than 3 minutes. It's what we try to do here. India, wait, the last 3 cost 0. I don't say that everyone costs 0, huh? Be careful. But the last 3 it costs 0. It's all material which has been recycled. And I repeat, I put a question, I say, if I imagine where we will have to work, we can have old furniture, old shelves and so on, that other museums don't use because they think that this is not sustainable. Welcome in September. Nigeria, perhaps you know about the Nok civilization. Some of those objects cost $1 million. $1 million. This is after. Or here we need a carpenter. That's the collection you have seen on the ground. Here is Algeria again. Well, here is that cost. Here is that cost we bought. That's China. China, we were foreigners. This is in the morning. Look at it. This is in the evening. Cost 0. We were 5 people. And again, for painting, here are New Caledonia. Look at it, the same alley. Cost, yes. And now, this storage, which was unvisitable, and the director decided not to receive any gift, to buy anything where it's contemporary art. Now this storage is visitable. And this is in Chile. Look at it. If you have to take this object for exhibition, what do you have to do? How many objects you have to remove? With all the risk of transport, of moving, some those who are conservative know very well. This is after. Nigeria, yes. It's complement. It's the same angle, exactly the same. In this case, we had 4,000 objects on the ground. We spent $20,000, 20,000 we had to spend on it. It's obvious. And here, we see the furniture. You see, you want to exhibit this. How many objects you have to move? How many objects? This is yours. How many objects? Now it's like this. We have established alleys. So it's open to that is not to be open to visit. So RE-ORG, the first idea is to have collection ready to be exhibited and studied. Easy. But it has other advantage. The collections are now back to the public because everyone visits. Children, everyone speaks about, I am very interested, I was very interested looking around the effort which is done in this museum to really have some original way to exhibit and to make a collection used to the public. I have been putting my hand on the collection, very interesting, not to say ceramic, porcelain, and so on. So, when you do a RE-ORG, if you decide, if the director of the museum, the manager of the museum decides, we can do something for the children, for the school. Here, for instance, we choose some specific object for the children, and the children were invited, and the teacher explained the object, and the curator herself came to explain the object. And the children were fascinated by the object. And what I was saying yesterday, when they enter, you see it was all at their level. So when they enter, they start to touch the object because they were models of houses. And we said, don't touch. So they were just caressing the object like this. It was very sweet. Oh. And then the children were taken into the storage to see how rich was their heritage. Here, it's in India. We made a competition with some objects from the storage. There was a competition, and they were receiving an award. Here it's in Madagascar, where we empty one storage to create a room for children. With the collection, we make special chairs, so they can sit, study the collection. And then the minister inaugurated, and there was a press conference, because we have to diffuse into the public. In Madagascar, we have more than 22 articles in the newspaper. And here are some of the articles. And we had a press conference. And we were invited at the television to explain museum as storage. Well, to show you this, in Nigeria, we hand over the certificate to the participants. It was not just a small ceremony like this. Very official. The king from all the area came. The king from all the area came. After this, there has been a party for the public, where there were dancers, and so on. And when the crowd came, you realize that there were one person shouting, take something, and all the crowd repeated. And when they were at the end, it went on for 1 hour. After some time, what are they saying? What are they saying? But what does it say? To whom it belongs, does it belong? And the crowd answers to our ancestors. To whom does it belong? To us. To whom does it belong? To our children. And it went on like this for 1 hour. And also, the staff has learned something, and the staff is happy. And I will show you just those last 10 slides. The staff and all the people who take part in the course in Serbia, they are happy. They are proud of what they have been doing. Algeria, Zagreb, Santiago de Chile, Lisbon. I don't know if you recognize her. And you see how she treated me. It's very painful to mention. Okay. China, where in 2015 you see Anya, and you see AIDA, who attend this course, and they have decided we will do it in our country. We want others to contribute. It's not this course where you keep everything for you. This information has to be diffused. And I know, and I need to compliment, of course, AIDA, who did it 2 years ago in Lisbon, and to compliment you because you have been stubborn. 7 years she has been trying to bring here the project RE-ORG, which will take place during the 2nd and the 3rd week in September in 2 museums. And I thank very much you, and I know that you are colleagues, the 2 managers who have been very generous to open their house. You see, open storage is not easy. And to show we have problems. Allez, we will take it together. So I want very much to thank you for generosity. And thank you for your attention. Thank you. May I just want to pay tribute to Paul Perrault, who was the former Vice President of ICCROM, who has really launched the idea in 1976. Launched his idea. He's still alive, and he knows that I'm giving this lecture today. And after this conference in 1976, he created for the Smithsonian Institution the most fabulous storage in the world, where there are more than 55 million objects which are at the disposal of the public. Well before, it was all in the corner and the staircase in an angle and so on. So you see, it's possible to do a good job, and I'm sure we will do a good job here. Thank you. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
So maybe I will be first, yes. So could you tell us how many countries in Europe implemented the RE-ORG already?
Alors, we have 2 things. The course, which will be 15 days, in which, in a specific declaration, we change the agreement of course, the manager and director. This is a course. It takes 15 days. We call people from other places. We will be 25 from 10 different museums. Each museum will send 2 people because to make change. If you are alone, everyone says, "Oh, it's okay." So there are 2 people coming from 10 museums which will be selected. They will come here, and in 15 days we will reorganize the fund of the storage which has been accepted. This is a course done in 2 weeks, and we finish the work. Then there is, we did it already in Greece, Serbia, Croatia, Spain, Portugal, Italy, France, Belgium. Okay? And Poland will be 9. Okay? That's a course. Limited time, people coming from everywhere and come back, as we did it in China, where people from Poland, for example, came, and now they are back home, and they are doing it in their home. Then there is a museum who said, I can do it myself. So they follow the book we have published, which will be translated into Polish. We thought, or you can use it in English or French or Spanish, if you speak Catalan, it is better. And here there are hundreds of museums which have done it in the world. They have done it privately. They just inform us, sometimes ask us, we have a question and so on, but they do it, and so they are not limited by the time, and it can sometimes take 1 year or so. So, but you see, you have 2 different kinds. The same book, the same method, sometimes applied in a short time by a group of people, sometimes done by the staff itself. There is a question. She has prepared.
Do you have another different question?
No.
No.
Maybe you tell us, do you know any example of someone refused the RE-ORG or maybe stopped the RE-ORG?
Oh, stop your refused. Why? Well, perhaps some of you have visited a storage which is in the shape, right? In bad condition. Why? Well, you say professionals have left, they have the responsibility of conserving the collection, and of course studying, of course exhibiting it. But why do they don't conserve it? Because they are non-professional. Because they have other responsibility or feel their own priority. Because sometimes they have not guidelines of what has to be and what has to enter in the storage. So there is no guideline, no official document. So generously they accept everything. So you are an archaeological museum, I'll give you an example. For instance, Iran, it's an archaeological museum, they were ethnographical collection. Because one donor said, oh, I don't know what to do with that, I give it to the museum. He has accepted. He should have said no. Huh? We are an archaeological museum, I want archaeology. Huh? So sometimes it's because the responsible manager has not a clear line of what he should do, and the storage starts to be accumulation of objects and other things. What do you do with an old computer? Put it in the storage. What do you do of thousands of catalogs of an exhibition, catalogs which are not been, were not sold? Storage. Then by chance, sometimes visitors passing by, looking for the visitor, and you hand over catalog. So it really lessens the pressure on the storage. That's another conference. And at the end, in Arabic country, the carpet of clients are in the storage, which means by the time they, the whole staff of the museum enter the storage to take their carpet to make their clients. Storage becomes default. Everything is there. And like this, everything accumulates. One day, the manager goes into pension, arrives a new manager, he has to agree on the inventory, sign on the inventory. What do? You can't do the inventory. So you sign it, but you don't do an inventory. You don't clean the place, because when you clean the place, you realize that there have been objects stolen. And then the new manager is responsible. So what does he do? He waits to go into another place and retirement, and it's the next who has to take the situation. So it's like this, and then non-professional element, all this accumulated at the end come to this type of record that I showed you. Either have you have a question? No question. But you will attend the lecture. So do you have any questions? The only thing I will ask you is, I have told you which museums there are. So we can't tell you all the names of museums which are here. You understand for which reason. So because the colleagues which have allowed me to take pictures have allowed me to use it for professionals and so on. So I am using it, but I don't want to have their name, because it seems to point out, look, they are just working right. Okay, of course. You see, we have, that's our responsibility. We are doctors and curators of the history, of our history. We are the curators. We have responsibility to transmit it to the next generation. So we have to do all we can to ensure that it will be transmitted in the best way. And if you are students, you are working in which university? But you are teaching. You are not teaching. You want to show to other people. I thought it, I will give it to you. No problem. Okay, but more this information will be diffused, more it is, it will change. We are. We are here in our profession to change the world. Listen, listen. It takes time by me to you, it will help to change the world. I will give it to you.
I would like to say something.
Yeah.
Just to reinforce, to emphasize something. I would like to reinforce something that Gaël said, but I think it's quite important, because I've noticed, if you even check in Polish, I've noticed that there are several museums here, not only from this town, but from probably the rest of the country. So whenever we organize a RE-ORG, so we invite, in cases of international, this is my case, I invited 10 museums from Portugal, but there were also 10 other professionals, curators, or people that are connected to collections and take care of collections from other countries in the world. So every time we organize a RE-ORG, besides the important fact that we are taking care of the collection inside the museum and inside those storage rooms, it's much wider. The objective of this program is much wider. Because in my case, I have 19 people, not 20, because in the end one person got sick, so I just had 19 people. Anya will have 20 people here, and those people are connected with collections and with different units, different museums. So the message is very wider. And if you have the chance of organizing a RE-ORG, you will invite 20 people more, and it gets always bigger. So in a distance of 30, 40, 50 years more, you can imagine the quantity of museums that, starting from a single unit, has the opportunity of having the same program. And there is another fact. Probably it was not said here, but it's very, very important. In my team now, this is very funny because it's like learning to ride by bicycle.
We did a RE-ORG in Lisbon. Aida organized it, and she invited people from all Portugal, and also from other countries. And she gives you the result 5 years later. It's not only that the story. Her story is now absolutely perfect. But she gives the result how it has extended in other places, especially in Portugal.
So it took about, well, unfortunately we had the pandemic walking, but 1.5 years afterwards, I began receiving emails because we had conference sessions developing the results of RE-ORG Lisboa. We had some articles in press and so on. So that was in the mind of the people. And 1.5 years later, I began receiving emails of people wanting to see the results in practice, in fact, in real life, in my storage. So I changed my profession. I'm not anymore paper conservation. I assist a lot in my, well, I'm joking, of course. I love my profession and I do it a lot. But from that moment on, I started helping people, showing around the results, giving information about suppliers and how we did things. And it's still going on. So in this moment there are at least 4 or 5 museums with whom I have direct contact, helping them because they will put that in practice. The good thing is that we just, in the press and so on, we just realize those that make notice of the reorg they are organizing, but there are many more that are doing that indoors. They don't say it. So this is a fantastic program. The team I've created is so funny because now we don't need to say to the team, oh, we have to reorganize their room, it's not ready yet, because people know exactly what they have to do. And we are very happy because of all the possibilities. So objects are not on the floor. We can reach an object in 3 minutes or less time. So we save money, we save time. We have visual inspection to all objects. So you can see, we can see the problems if there are problems. And we work in a team. It's funny because 7 people now, the team is composed of 7 people. We have the same goals, the same ideas, even if we don't speak to each other. So it's a contagious program. It's fantastic. I would advise you all to implement it.
Now, I was there, okay, what she's doing freely, and she's just
It was a question, and it's not a question. It's a statement.
So you see that
Thank you, Isa.
I really just to you to think how in Poland you can be the key to make change. And it's why you see we are here this week to prepare mentors. This week is to know what is the situation, but in the meantime to train trainers. And there are 5 of your colleagues who are here in the room. Can you stand up? Can you stand up, the 5 mentors? Okay. Here are the 5 mentors which will diffuse this method. It will not be anymore Aida or myself, but it will be Polish people who will do it for us. And probably Poland people who will do for the rest of Poland. I hope so. Okay? Just an idea. But the training of trainer is essential, but it will take us 1 week. We are here for 5 days to train, and which will be in September. They will be the people who will who take control the situation. So it's not just one operation and another. Now there is diffusion. What do you think?
I have a question, because you mentioned many meetings, the reorg was done several years ago. Yeah. And my question, coming from practice, is how long does it last?
Look, the problem has everything. It's a human problem. If the job has to be done, you continue the job. So it's a question of personal. I can show you excellent results and large diffusion and population, and I can give you that example, and I will give you one disastrous example, because it's of course good to say, when you do it, I will not tell you. Actually, the storage was there. There was a door, the office of the curator, and she had another door to go in the corridor, During the 15 days, she was a curator. She has never opened the door to see the work that we did. Wait. We asked her at the end, please, could you nominate one person who will be in charge? Because this is the first criteria of quality. Have somebody in charge. Somebody who has the key, not 10 people who have the key. Because if there are 10 people who have the key, if there is anything stolen, everything which is put in the wrong place, it is the other one. One person who has the key. That's the first criteria. She refused because she was at the power, she was a curator, she was the only one, and so on. So she refused to put the key, to say to a colleague, professional, you are the responsibility. No, you are responsible. Your responsibility means this, that, and that. In the course, we give rules for what can be rules, type of rules for the storage. So she refused. I gave 1 year later, it was rejected. So, you see, the responsibility is not we have lack of space, we have lack of management. But I can give you other examples in the same country, in another museum, where we started in one section of the storage, and the next year, and the following year, and that's it for you. So, good and bad example. But as always, it's our responsibility. You feel that it's important, or you don't feel that it's important. I can show you a photo, so I can give you many examples. But generally, I that with you. That now, 5 years later, despite 2 years of pandemic, there are more than 20 museums which have done it in Portugal. And I can use other, but they are good, and by chance, people are so proud when they are finished. When they have done the job, you see they are articles. Have you seen the photos? You have seen the page? They are all smiling. It's not this kind of
because you forced us.
Smile. Give me my camera. I will take a photo of you. I will ask you to smile. That's the name of it. I smile. 1, 2, 3. Good. Thank you. But that's the fake side. Any other question? Naughty question. Yes, put me a naughty question.
When doing the organization of the storage, is the consideration of future collection as well?
Of course. Of course. This is, you see, yesterday when we are on this, the question is, what do you want for storage? What do you want? Do you want a storage where only professionals are entering and staff? Do you want storage where you have researchers? Do you want storage where you would have public once a year, the ICCROM Day or National Museum Day and so on? Do you want a storage which is fully open to visitors? It will change our project. You see, if only professional enter, an alley will be this one. Okay? To move around. If you have public, this one. And I will have only here objects which will not be damaged. So the way I will present the object in the storage will depend on the decision of the director, or the manager, and so on. And of course, we ask, if you have a collection, for instance, of writers, you have all his book, all his paper, all his objects, and so on. There is no expansion. But in an archaeological museum, we study how many objects roughly enter a year, and we can calculate and anticipate for how long the storage will be useful. So of course it is essential. It's not just a question of space, it's part of what I call management. It's anticipating what will happen. Not just put people say, oh, you just put into order. My food. Okay? Other questions? No? May I will just add one thing. And then other. People are surprised to say, how will you do it in 15 days? We finish in 15 days. We are already finished in 15 days. We start on Monday, first week, second week, on Thursday evening, it's over for visitors or on Friday. So we finish in 10 days. First of all, we ensure that we can do specifically here. There are two roles: the museum and the musical instrument. I had to come yesterday and to evaluate, can we do the two in 15 days? We don't think we will leave the thing out. So, by limiting it, we see if it is possible to do it. Secondly, if we calculate, generally we follow the time of the in-country. Here, it's 8:30 to 5:30. But in Arabic countries, it could be from 8 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we adapt, we don't impose, we respect. And so we play with the time. Then we can, and it has happened, play on Saturday and Sunday during the 2 weeks. Sometimes Saturday and Sunday we have to work. And last thing, we play with the number of participants. You see, in this play, I think I did very well to do. 11 rooms. We take the 11 rooms. We don't take the one room because the reorganization requires to take into consideration everything. I will give you an easy example. Imagine that this is a storage at the beginning. So that we put here porcelain, carpets, paintings, all the collection. Now one day it's full. So we move, we take another storage where we put paintings, ceramics, everything. And then in the next one, so sometimes all museums, I had a museum, we had 32 rooms. And nearly in every 32 rooms, there were all types of collections. So you cannot say, we reorganize this one. And what do we do? No. We take the 32 rooms, and we decide, in this room, there will be painting. In this room, ceramics. The first work is to regroup. So we cannot decide just to make one. As an example, we have to take into consideration the whole aspect. In some cases, we have to think quite over about what we will be doing here. So we can play if the quantity of work to be done, generally the minimum is 2,200 hours of work, handwork. But sometimes it will be more. And at this point, we take, not in this case, we take 10 museums with 2 people, perhaps here. What?
10 people will be from our museum, 10 from ours, 10 from others.
Yes, okay, but there will be, okay? But we will supposed to be 20. Perhaps I will ask, we will have to open it to 24, perhaps 26, open it to other museums. That is my job. To evaluate how many people would we have to be in order to achieve the goal. Not just remove the dust. Okay? Perhaps I had to add this because it was a question which was raised quite often. How do you achieve this in their flexibility, number of people, the quantity of work to be done, that it has all to be done, number of people, the duration of the day, and how many. In Nigeria, 4,000 objects on the ground. We were 55. 55. And 55 doesn't know that at the beginning. And in 2 days we have to create a team, same spirit, same way of working, same duration of time, same language, and so on. And we achieve it.
Proszę Państwa, też będzie, że Pani Ania cało piekła ciasteczka. Kawa, powiedziałem, że bardziej ciasteczka. Ale dziękuję bardzo.
Tak, zapraszamy serdecznie. Można wtedy pytać, you can ask more questions personally. Yes, sir.